Hey guys, this is a part 2 of 20 things that I wish I knew before learning a language. My name is Kat and I'm a native English speaker, but I also speak German, Portuguese, and Polish, and I've been teaching English as a foreign language since 2020. So for the last 5 years, let's get started. Number 1, you won't learn what you don't notice. Your brain really filters out things that it finds irrelevant and you just kind of ignore. And so you really won't learn from that. You get used to hearing the words that you do know and ignoring the others. It's nice because you finally feel like you can understand. Your brain is picking out all these words it knows, and it's like, wow, I know this language. But then at a certain point, you kind of stop learning because you're just ignoring all the stuff that you don't know. So it's really important that you start to train your brain. Instead of noticing the words you do know, you need to notice the words you don't know. Now, this only works once you get to, I would say, an intermediate level where you understand more than 50% of the words. So at that point, it's super important that you start picking up on the words you don't know and studying those. Once you start learning to notice the things you don't already know, you're going to start making huge progress. Number 2, it's really important to write in a new language. I have found that this is honestly the best way that I practice grammar, new words. When you're doing day-to-day things, try to integrate that language. So if you need to write a grocery list, write it in the new language. If you need to write a to-do list, write it in that language. And your brain is going to practice not only the new words, the new grammar you've learned, but it's also going to practice thinking in that language. So it's really important. I found a great thing to do is to get in the habit at night of writing even just a paragraph in a journal and talk about your day, what happened, anything that you would normally write. But if you use the new words that you learned that day and the new grammar, it's just going to solidify it a little bit more and you're going to remember it. Number 3 is that grammar is actually just putting names to the patterns that you already hear. Sometimes the grammar can feel really overwhelming and scary, and this kind of depends on the language too. Some languages have really extensive grammar and it feels really overwhelming. I know for me, it feels that way in Polish. The grammar is just crazy and sometimes my brain just can't handle it. And when I get to this point, the best thing I can do is just listen to something and try to pick up on nuances. And then when you go back to the grammar, it feels a little bit easier because you're actually just seeing the patterns that you've already recognized. And when you think of it as a pattern and not some academic, how would you say, like a pit of despair? No, some big thing that you have to memorize, it gets to be a lot easier. So try thinking of grammar as a pattern, not as something that you have to memorize. Number 4 is that repetition is boring, but also essential. Now, I read somewhere, I probably should fact check this. This is a long time ago, but I read something like your brain has to see a new word 7 times before it actually is stored away and you remember it. So when you're learning a new language, it's important that you a new encounter with a word as often as you can. So say that you're reading something and you see a new word, and that's encounter number 1. Then you need to look it up if you don't know it, right? So looking it up in a dictionary or on Google Translate, that is number 2. Then you need to write it down so that you remember it and write the definition. That would be encounter number 3. We're trying to get to about 7. So how can you continue this repetition so you remember it? Here are some things that I like to do. At the end of the night, sometimes I'll read through all my new words that I learned that day. That's really good if you're really going an intensive way and you're learning 15, 20 new words a day. That's a good way to just do a quick review. Now, if you're not doing it as intensive, another thing I like to do is, first of all, I keep a word book, like a small notebook. I wish I had one. A small notebook where I write all my new words just in a line so that I can always see all my new words. And then if I think, oh, I swear I encountered this maybe last week, I'll just flip the pages back and then I see it there and I'm like, oh yeah, I did. I wish I remembered that. But then once a week, on the weekend, usually Sunday for me, I will go back from that whole week Okay, I actually found a book. This is not my word book, but it will work. So then I'd take a piece of paper, and for example, here I have text, and then here I would cover up the English side, which would be that side. I would cover up the language that you're native in, cover it up like that, and go through and see if you see the words I don't know. I'll then highlight. So do I remember that? Yes. Okay, go through. This one I don't know, then I would highlight it. And then that week, I would add that on to my list for the next week. So that's a good way to just review all your words for the week, and a really easy. It's honestly not that time consuming, but it's so important that you repeat words, that you continue using them, that if you learn a new word, okay, try to use it that day or the next day. So try your best to repeat as often as you can. I know it's boring, but it's part of the process and you just have to do it. Number 5 is something that I wish I did early on learning a language. I wish I had just made a cheat sheet of about 20 phrases that I actually use all the time, and then memorize those and use them. For example, are you hungry? I have a question. At the beginning of learning a language, I always find that I get so frustrated when I'm studying all these verbs, all this vocabulary, all this grammar, and then I go to actually speak and I want to say something like, can you open the door? And it feels so hard. You're conjugating the verb, you're trying to remember what happens with your noun, you're remembering word order, and it's just this super simple phrase, and it feels so hard. And if I would go back, I would just memorize 20, maybe 30 of those real life everyday phrases first. And as you get better learning the language and notice those nuances in the grammar, it can feel so unmotivating when you try to say something super simple and it feels so hard. So to beat that, I would just memorize some phrases early on. Number 6 is that being embarrassed is part of the process. Cringing a little bit at your mistakes is just part of it. And honestly, you're gonna look back on that and they're gonna be great memories. It's hard when you're doing it because it can feel so embarrassing, but it's part of it. Making those mistakes means that you're putting yourself out there and you're trying, and you're really taking that courage of speaking a new language. It's actually a really good sign that you're making progress, but it's embarrassing and it's hard. But just know that it's part of the process, and as you progress with your language skills, you're actually gonna feel so much nostalgia for those mistakes, and it will really warm your heart to see how far you've come. They're really a reminder of the milestones that you make, so give yourself some grace and don't beat yourself down too much over these little mistakes. Number 7 is that self-talk is a secret weapon. I don't know why people don't talk about this very much, but talking to yourself and thinking to yourself in another language is so helpful. Now, it might feel really awkward and weird at first, and to be honest, it kind of is, but it really helps your language skills, and plus then you have no one to be embarrassed to. So something I've done in the past is I've just dedicated certain times to thinking in that language, and I will have conversations with myself, I'll answer myself. Or if you go about day-to-day tasks and you just think, how would I say this? Open the fridge. And in your mind, try to think, okay, how would I say that in that other language? It really helps, and you're getting actually all that practice of talking all the time, just with yourself. If I'm running, then I would say, okay, every day when I go on a run, that's my time to think in German. And then 20 minutes or so, you're just thinking to yourself in German. Plus, it makes the run go by so much quicker. If you're taking a shower, you say, okay, whenever I take a shower, I think in German. And it just really helps. And the more that you can do that in your head and alone when you're with yourself, the more you're going to feel confident to do it in public and with strangers and with native speakers. So that's definitely a stepping stone to being fluent. And I really encourage that you practice that. Number 8 is that your first 500 words matter so much more than the next 5,000. These 500 words are super core basic words that you're going to hear all the time. And if you get those nailed down pretty quickly, it's going to make your life so much easier. When I have started learning a language and I have not just memorized those words right away, it has been so hard, because then you start reading something or you listen to a song and you're trying to learn these new words, but you are confronted with all of these super basic words that you should already know. Words like and, because. You hear these all the time, and it just makes your life so much easier if you learn them right away. Those core 500 words do so much of the heavy lifting when you're translating, listening, writing. So just, if you don't know what to do, just start there. Number 9 is a really frustrating one that anyone who has learned language knows. You will forget things that you learned literally yesterday. It does not mean that you don't know them anymore. It means that your brain is just not remembering right then, and you just have to re-see it, give it a reminder, and it will come back. And the next time, believe it or not, it's actually going to be closer in your brain, and you're going to see it. You're going to remember it a lot quicker. But it is so frustrating when you're learning a language and you review something, you practice something, and you do it perfectly, and then the next day you cannot remember a single thing that you saw yesterday. It doesn't mean that you completely forgot it, and it won't last forever. Just number 10 is that confidence builds faster than competence. So I actually covered this a little bit in my last video, that some days you feel fluent and other days you feel like you know literally nothing. This is totally okay, and it's totally normal. You're gonna feel really confident, and then you're gonna get humbled. And actually what is really happening here is that you are learning that sometimes you speak well, but you still make mistakes, and that's okay. You want to learn that because it's gonna happen for as long as you're speaking a language that's not your native language. I mean, think about how many mistakes you make in your native language and how often you get stumbled and you fumble across your words. Even though your language skills are getting better, so is your confidence, and that is so important when you're trying to speak. Number 11 is that you can love a language and still be annoyed by it. This one can really get me going. Some languages I love with all my heart, but sometimes they just annoy me so much. Irregular verbs, strange pronunciation, new words that just don't make any sense. These things can be so frustrating. And honestly, when you have that love-hate relationship, it almost makes you love the language a little bit more. So it can be really frustrating, but just keep going and it will be okay. Number 12 is don't make your routine too precious. This is a mistake I've made so many times, and I've definitely seen it with students. The consistency is more important than the routine. Sometimes when people are too involved with their routine, if they get a little knocked off, then it really disrupts the whole thing. It's better that you just do a little something every day and stay consistent than stay too rigid with your routine. Number 13 is that understanding native speed is a huge milestone. The first time you can fully follow a whole sentence a native says is truly one of the best moments. It takes so much work and so much time to get to that point, and when you get there, things start to move so much more quickly and you feel so much more confident and capable with your language skills. That is a huge milestone, and don't underestimate it. If you're starting to understand natives, that is so impressive, and your language skills are going to increase just so much quicker from there on. Number 14 is that songs make phrases and words stick for life. When you memorize part of a song or a chorus, and then you look at the lyrics and you really know which words are in there, what it's saying, you will never forget it. I still listen to songs that I learned 5-10 years ago when I was learning a language, and they really warm your heart. And then eventually it's like, you don't even notice that it's in another language, and all of those words are sometimes words that you're learning for the first time hearing that song, and truly, you don't forget them after that. Anytime you hear that word too, it will remind you of that song. So that, honestly, learning music to learn a language is one of the best tips ever. Number 15 is one that is actually really hard today with how many resources we have, but it's super important. Start with fewer resources than you think. You overcomplicate it when you have 5 apps and 10 websites, and I'm not going to say 50 YouTube channels, but when you have all of these different resources, you overcomplicate it. Really, it should be pretty simple. You just need one workbook and exposure. Keep it simple, and I like to have notebooks where I write notes, but really you shouldn't have tons of resources. It's just going to make it harder for you to stay consistent, and you're just overcomplicating your routine. Number 16 is that input is not enough. Output is really where you stretch. Input when you're tired is really fantastic, but where you're really going to see your language skills improve and where it's really going to be hard, but you're really going to learn a lot is in output. So that means speaking, writing, really producing the language yourself. That's where you're really going to grow the most. I always recommend input when you're tired and you don't have that much energy, and output when you have energy, and you're going to have the best results that way. Number 17 is that translating actually helps you learn things in a very literal way, and it does help. I think nowadays a lot of people say you shouldn't be directly translating, and I don't think that's true, because it actually really helps you see how a language works. It helps you recognize the nuances in both your own native language and the language you're learning. You see really close up the differences and the examples, and it really helps. So I actually totally recommend taking a sentence and doing a direct translation and seeing exactly what is different and exactly how it's different. And it's going to help you just really literally understand what's going on. So if people tell you to not directly translate, just ignore them. Do it anyways. Number 18 is that passive learning still adds up. Like I just said, output is super important, but there's also a really good place for input. When I'm tired and I just have no energy to study a language, the best thing you can do is turn on a podcast, listen to music, turn on a TV show or a movie, and just let it go on in the background. Now, obviously, you're not getting the same effects that you would get from really sitting down and studying the material, but you're still hearing the pronunciation, you're still hearing the words, you're getting a lot of exposure actually, and that's great. So honestly, there's a place for that, and it all adds up. So just keep doing that if you're already doing it. And if you're not, try to add it in really naturally throughout your day. Number 19 is that plateaus are very real, but they're also temporary. It feels so discouraging when you're learning a language and it just feels like you're getting things, you're speaking better, you're understanding more, and then all of a sudden it's like constant for a really long period of time. And that is the worst, because like I said before, you're kind of stuck in this trap of like, am I fluent or do I not know anything? I don't know. There are some jumps that are really hard to make. It's like the A2 to B1 jump is a really hard jump and it takes a long time. And the same thing, the B2 to the C1 jump. Oh my gosh, that one is so hard and it takes so long. And it feels really discouraging when you feel like, you're just staying the same. But trust me, everything that you're learning and practicing is solidifying more, and you're just getting better and better every day. Number 20 is that you're gonna wish that you had a record of your earliest mistakes. Honestly, the cringiest mistakes become the best memories. I've actually seen it in a lot of the comments below. You guys tell really funny stories of mistakes that you've made when learning English or other languages, and see, like, you remember them. They're the best memories. So just hold on to those and don't beat yourself up too much. Those are the best memories and you just learn from them. So here are 20 things that I wish I knew before learning a language and that I wish my students all knew before learning a language as well. I hope you enjoyed them, and if this video helped you, please like and subscribe. It really, really helps my channel and I really appreciate it. I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.